Greg, familiar territory considering you were here last year with Better Eclipse. Nice to be back, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a fantastic setup here, and the Stonewall team look after us very, very well. So we didn't have a lot of luck with last year's trip, but through no fault of theirs or ours, I don't think. So hopefully this year's a little bit better.
We'll get to the horses shortly, but to give the Kiwi viewer, or punter if you like, fan of harness racing a bit more perspective, the power couple, and I know you probably don't like being called that, you and Jess, given your family lineage on both sides, it's no surprise you're having some success.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose, if you're looking through a yearling catalogue and you looked at our breeding, you'd say, yeah, it should be able to do a job. So, no, we're pretty fortunate, both Jess and I. We had great support early on and come from great backgrounds. Myself, I'm a third generation harness racing driver. And Dad did a phenomenal job throughout his career. And on her side of the page, Tubbsy, he was a fantastic horseman. Sort of a smaller boutique stable, but every time he lined one up, they were a serious horse and always in with a chance. So we had a good grounding.
You lost Alan about 6 or 7 years ago, and his record speaks for itself. I remember watching Mel Park Major in awe. He was an outstanding horseman.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just sort of renowned for taking horses that out the box, I suppose. A lot of his best horses. It won a lot of good juvenile races with horses that had very average breeding, but he was a real perfectionist, loved one-on-one training, and he seemed to know little ways to get the best out of them. So yeah, he was a fantastic bloke to learn off.
And of course, your own father, Ross, you based it. You would have had some great nights at Globe Derby. You must have been cool growing up as a kid, seeing your dad strut round there.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially through the late 80s, early 90s, he was a real powerhouse. And growing up with that sort of background, and you just get used to winning races, I suppose, and you think, how easy is this? But obviously, as you get older, you realise it's not always that easy. But he made it look that way. Through my early days, and he basically taught me everything I know. All the foundations to training and driving all come from him. So fantastic work ethic, and just worked hard. Still does to this day. So fantastic mentor.
And the move to Victoria was the catalyst, effectively, for your driving career. I'm not saying exclusively the family did it for that, but it certainly helped.
Oh, it certainly did, yeah. I was obviously at that stage, I think I was about 19 years old, where I sort of thought I want to make a career out of this, and unfortunately, the Adelaide circuit sort of wasn't the place to sort of do that. So we made the step across to Victoria, which was pretty tough. The early days, it was hard to break in, but I had that support of Mum and Dad coming over with the team of horses that sort of really got my name out there, and everything sort of snowballed from there.
How does the trainer-driver relationship work, husband and wife, and what's the dynamic? Because I've watched Jess work. She works bloody hard too.
She's unreal. Absolutely the backbone of the stable, and there's no doubt, I can't do things like this, and and even just as simple as the driving, all the race meetings that I've got to in recent years, I just couldn't do it without her support. She's phenomenal, and she keeps the show running behind the scenes. She doesn't like the limelight. She doesn't like being in front of the camera. She avoids that as much as she can, and probably largely goes under the radar a little bit. But anyone that spends 5 minutes around Lara J Farm realise how hard a worker she is.
Let's talk about these two horses you've brought here. We'll start with Better Eclipse, because he's been here before, and unfortunately he's going to cop a similar sort of draw that he did last year. But tell me the difference between last year's Better Eclipse and the one that arrives for the Race by Grins for the second time.
Yeah, I think the trip last year really made this horse. He'd already sort of stepped out into that open class racing just before that trip, but I think having a trip away and that solid racing under his belt, even though he was largely unlucky here last time around, it sort of really seasoned him, and he came back from a break sort of halfway through last year or late last year, and was a far more all-round horse. He was probably just known for his speed. It's still his best asset, but he's able to do a bit more work these days, and he's just a maturity thing, I suppose, as he's got a year older, that he has a little bit more versatility about himself.
Yeah, he's a Chariots winner. He's a Sunshine Sprint winner. Sydney didn't go well. Has he bounced off that? No, you happy the way he's travelled?
Yeah, absolutely. No, his couple of runs for the Miracle Mile Carnival this year, his performances were fine. We were very, very happy with them. It's just the way racing worked out. He just had no luck, and yeah, was smashing the clock and running nowhere basically. So yeah, he's come back from that, no worries at all. Had a one lead-up race in Melbourne where he ran second to Catch a Wave, again in very fast time, and was hitting the line well. So yeah, all signs say yeah, he's ready to run a great race.
Harry, Just Believe as the public know him. He's been a remarkable horse, the only horse to have gone through 200 Dominions and been unbeaten. He must still surprise you and Jess at times.
Yeah, he sure does. He's a phenomenal horse, and sort of that type of horse where you don't sort of think you're going to get a horse like that come to your stable. So yeah, it's just right place at the right time for us when he did turn up, and yeah, his record speaks for itself. You know, over the last probably 18 months or 2 years, he's been phenomenal. So he never runs a bad race. He just tries his heart out. He's just a real consistent all-round performer, and you know, he's no standout, I don't think, anymore. Even though his record is better than most, there's a lot of quality horses in this race, and there'll continue to be quality horses in the feature races moving forward in the in the next 12 months or so. So yeah, he's a great horse. I wouldn't swap him for anyone else, that's for sure. But yeah, he's going to have to go good to win on Friday night.
Who's your biggest threat in your eyes?
Tough one. Call Me the Breeze. I expect him to probably find the front. He's possessed terrific gate speed, and the only really one start down here where they've really lit him up, and unfortunately for Connections, he over-raced on that occasion. So I suppose that's in the back of their mind. But yeah, got a very healthy respect for him. Obviously, RC Phoenix, who beat us over the short course before we came over here. He's a horse on the rise. You know, your local stars like Muscle Mountain and Oscar are obviously going to be big threats too. So yeah, certainly not a one-horse race, that's for sure.